Hi everyone. It's been a while since I've done any Karin guides, and I've been thinking about things a lot because I went to Combo Breaker a month ago, and this is going to be a little bit more off the cuff. This isn't pre-planned. There's no script or anything. Just as a little thing, I might say or like a lot because my brain. I'm multilingual, so I have to constantly translate phrases or words in my head back and forth, so sometimes my brain CPU kind of has to freeze for like half a second. But anyways, I was thinking lately about why I haven't been doing that many Karin guides on this site, and I've been getting a lot of DMs from people or just tweets on Twitter, and thinking to myself, why are people asking me about Karin guides? Like, I'm I don't consider myself that good of a player. I don't consider myself strong. I consider my mental game in Street Fighter weak, in fact. And it started going into this little thought process because over the past year, right, I switched to playing on Hitbox, and because of that, there was this little excuse I made in my head of like, well, if I lost sets in tournament or messed up or did anything where I felt like I was letting myself down a little bit, then I could feel like it was because like my controller, right? Because I'm learning a new controller style, so it's fine. But then I started telling myself and saying, well, this is the same person who made it to Master Rank, who went to a lot of tournaments, had some success, admins on 2 different character discords, and has a community that is very nice to me. And I asked myself, when have I started thinking this way? And it kind of started making me want to make this specific guide episode, not just for other people, but also kind of for myself. I think the big thing that we tell ourselves whenever we're going into tournaments or just playing online or playing with friends is we start comparing ourselves to what we don't have, right? I started wanting to be good at Street Fighter around the end of Street Fighter 4, around Ultra Street Fighter 4, because I would watch like Maximilian's videos and see, oh man, he can do FADC. I can't do that. I can only do like 2 special moves, maybe even like just 1 button repeatedly, and if I won a round I would feel really good about myself. But excuse me. But somewhere around that line I started thinking to myself, God, I keep having a throat. But somewhere around that line I started thinking to myself, well, maybe I can actually be good at these games, or I can compete at these games with other people, because I see people in tournaments at like EVO and having so much fun, and I would just watch it like once a year and think to myself, oh, this is like a sporting event that I get to watch. But I never thought to myself that I could be a part of that, or I could be one of the competitors, or I can sit on stream, or try to wow people with my with my tournament results or prowess or whatever. I've been playing these games since I was like 6, originally in arcades with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and stuff like that. But as time has kind of gone on, I started to become a lot more passionate about the genre, and I started getting invested in the tournament scene, but also started making friends through fighting games. And somewhere along those lines, I wanted to get even better, and I have this side with me where I'm a very competitive person at my core, but also at the same time, I just want to be able to win with respect, and to be able to be gracious as a player, right? People see me screaming, and it's a very easy pitfall that when you're losing to something that you don't know the answer to, or like the net play is less than ideal, you tell yourself, oh my gosh, my opponent, they're so bad, or something like that, and I have to stop myself, because it's a very tempting thing to tell yourself to say out loud. And when you're with friends, it doesn't really matter, but when you're like streaming and people are watching you, and heck, like someone who just fought you might want to go look at the footage, which I've done personally against like top streamers, where I'm like, oh, I want to see what they think about my playstyle. I need validation. So I kind of try to stop myself from doing that, because I don't want people to feel bad, because I know they won at the end of the day, even if like the netcode was not on my side or whatever. Like at the end of the day, the loss screen is on my end. So that was like one of the values that was always important to me as a player, is telling myself that I want to be a strong player, but I also want to be a positive player, like be a gracious player that other people can see this behavior and think to themselves, oh, I want to be a part of that energy in the fighting game community. I want to be one of the positive people. So it's hard, but I think the easiest thing that you can kind of do to tell yourself that, to like face that frustration, is to kind of just tell yourself that they want to have fun just as much as you do, or they want to win just as much as you do, right? But that started happening around the time when I started telling myself, oh, I'm capable of winning. So back in like Street Fighter 4, I would lose like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times in a row, and it never really, like, you don't like losing. Losing feels bad. You still get annoyed, but it's not like you think on it, you know? It's, oh, I played my video game and it didn't go my way, so I'm just gonna like stop playing, and then that's that. But like when you're a competitive player, you start thinking to yourself, well, I don't like that. Well, this says something about my playstyle. This says something about my autopilot. This says something about like my mindset whenever I'm playing fighting games. There's something wrong with my decision making to reach this conclusion, because if you start losing repeatedly in certain parts, there has to be a thread, right? There has to be something that connects it as to why you're losing. Do you make too many high-risk decisions? Do you not play defense enough? Do you force yourself to like throw yourself out there when you're on offense? Like, why is it that you're losing at a pattern, or why is it that you feel like when you win, it feels like you won by your cuffs, but it felt like you didn't get anything out of that set, right? And that's kind of the topic that I wanted to talk about, is that feeling of frustration and letting it decide how you present yourself as a player, your decisions that you make outside of just the actual matches, and to tell you that you are allowed to grow in however way that you want, and you are capable of growing, because plateauing is normal. Every single person plateaus. It's just a natural part of being a player. I've watched sports. There are so many times where you see some of the greatest players of all time have like a season where they're playing like garbage. They're not playing to their standards. Like, it doesn't matter if you're like Hakeem or LeBron or Shaq or any of those players, or Larry Bird, Steve Nash, whatever. No matter how talented you are, no matter how hard you work, you're eventually going to hit a wall. And that doesn't mean that you're bad. That's far from it. It just means that you are stuck with a problem. And that's around the time that you need to start working on problem solving as a player. And that's something we don't talk about very much in the fighting game community, in terms of just like the idea that it's okay for us to be frustrated. And we have a lot of like positive streamers who help you with that, and to tell you that you are growing and you're doing well. And I think that's incredible, and a lot of those people are helping a lot. But there's always going to be that thing of like, these games are naturally competitive, and it's not like you can open up a tutorial in Street Fighter 5 saying why you're losing. Like, I think like Guilty Gear Xrd or Strive, I don't remember, had like a little part saying you could lose to this kind of stuff. Why am I losing? Like, there's a little why am I losing section, I believe, in Rebel. And it kind of has like little brief snippets, which are fine, but the issue with talking about hitting your own wall is that it's your wall. And there are things that you may share with other players in terms of hitting the wall, but it's still kind of a personal journey. You can get as much advice as you want from other players, and those advice pieces can help you a lot as a player. But you're still the person who has to make those changes for yourself. I can tell you, if I can like watch you play, right, and you've been playing Street Fighter for like a year, and I see you're not pressing anti-air enough, and I tell you that, I'm telling you, you're not pressing anti-air enough, because when the person jumps in, you just block, and once you block, you don't do anything with your turn, so your turn is over, and they still continue, like, their pressure because you didn't take your turn back, so your turn is effectively over because you never took it, if that makes sense. And I can explain that to you, but you need to reach that conclusion yourself. You have to cognitively take my advice and apply it to yourself and say, well, what can I do to fix that? And I can tell you what you can do to fix that. But then you also, like, still have to, like, do the practice yourself. You have to have the confidence to apply that practice in a match, which is hard. People may not mention it sometimes, but it's hard to create that confidence for yourself, right? But you have to take it to yourself to say, okay, when I go into ranked match, I'm not going to get upset if like my confirms are off because I'm focusing on anti-airing right now. And you just push it, right? You just push yourself and say, I am going to work on this facet in my game plan that is a little bit weaker than my other ones, but I want it to be my strength. And that was me when I was in Platinum in Street Fighter 5. I remember I was playing with a friend. My friend was saying, Eson, you let me jump in on you at like 12 different times, and that's why you lost. And it hurt. It stung, because I thought to myself, God, I'm bad at this game. God, I can never improve. God, it's just impossible. I'll never get out of Platinum. I'll never get out of Gold. Like, that has been a thing I tell myself almost every single rank I'm in, any tournament I'm in, no matter which players I fought, no matter how close or hard fought those fights were, I tell myself, God, if only I was better as to be able to do these things without feeling like I have to be carrying a boulder on my back. And that's the hard part about being a tournament player, is that feeling may not ever go away depending on the person, right? I have a lot of anxiety. I grew up in a very hyper competitive space because I was I was on a lot of scholarships. I was in sports. I was doing a ton of other things, and I always, whenever I was in academia, I had to be the best. And that's kind of the perspective you get when you get older, is you don't have to. You want to be the best, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You can want to be the best, but you don't have to be the best. There is no force telling you that you have to get better at this amount of time, or at this rate, or you need to have these certain skill sets to improve. These are all things that you can want in your life, but you don't have to force yourself to. And that's what I mean forcing. You don't have to tell yourself that you're garbage because you don't have these skill sets yet, but you can develop into them. And the issue is, you sometimes see other players, right? And it's frustrating for me personally, because I'm one of those players where when a brand new fighting game comes out, I'm terrible. I'm actively awful. I don't understand fighting games until I've had them for months. This happened to me with Grand Blue Versus, where I placed really high in Arc Rebel. I think I was around top 16. I think I got top 16, but flashback a year and a half or 2 years ago, and I was just getting destroyed in lobbies left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right. And I told myself, oh, if I can just get to like B rank, I think that's gonna be like where I'm going to plateau off. And I set this arbitrary ranking for myself to tell myself, this is as good as you're gonna get. But I kept playing Grand Blue not because I wanted a certain rank, but because I just had fun. Kat is an extremely fun character for me. She's the most fun I've had playing fighting games for so long. But that's kind of why I kept playing Grand Blue. And I didn't even think about it, but I started ranking up in the back of my head of like, oh, now I'm at A rank. Oh, now I'm at S. Oh, now I'm at double S. No, now I'm at triple S. oh, and then suddenly I got Master. And it wasn't like I was forcing myself to get Master, it just happened to come along the way. And when I was trying to get Master, when I was at Triple S, and I just was like, okay, I just have to win these 5 matches, and then I got Master, that was when I was kind of playing the sloppiest I've ever been. But there was just one point where I just stopped playing like ranked for like 2 months. I was playing the game, but just not on ranked. And then just one day, out of nowhere, I just was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go into ranked. And then won 5 times in a row, got Master. And that's kind of like how it is, you know? You don't think to yourself that you've improved, that you've become better, because you tell yourself that, oh, I haven't gotten to this rank yet, therefore I'm not good enough. Oh, I don't have this skill set that this other player in my rank or in my locals or in this tournament or someone I look up to can do. I'll never get that good. I have a lot of anecdotes to pull out, actually. There was one time with Karin, there was just something very simple, I think. It was her Oki after Orochi, and I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the input, like, ability. I did not have the muscle memory. I kept trying it. It was for an hour. It was for an hour and a half. And I remember someone just was like, oh yeah, it's not that bad. You just have to not think on it too much. And that bothered me, like, because I was thinking to myself, God, this is like taking me so long. This is taking me so much energy. I'm getting so tired right now. I'm getting so frustrated. I just can't do this simple input. Am I just terrible at this game? And I had like this existential thought on like Street Fighter where I'm like, am I actually a fighting game player if I can't do something for my character that I'm making guides for? Like, I can't do this simple Orochi thing. Like, are you kidding me? And I was going down that hole of like, maybe I just am not don't have the right to tell people advice or give them guides or teach them things because I can't do something that is considered to be a intermediate exercise and I'm in master ranking. Like, are you kidding me? Is this what? Is it just because I'm not gonna? And this was like 2 years ago, right? And you tell yourself these things because you want to be better, but you want to be better right now, or you see other people doing it and you tell yourself, why am I not capable of doing it? And this is kind of where the point of this video is going to come of. Everyone grows at their own rate, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're a bad player. That doesn't mean that you don't deserve to practice among other people in your local scenes or in whatever group of friends you're in. You have just as much of a right to ask for games, to work on your little things, to talk about your opinions on a character. Like, you're allowed to tell yourself that you're part of this community and that you are just as important of a person in this community as like Daigo, as Tokido, as, I don't know, Problem X. Like, those guys are among the best of the best, right? Of course they are. But that doesn't mean that you don't make an impact as a player, and I would be sad if you as a player decided to stop playing because you think you weren't good enough. Because I told myself that, right? Over the past 2 years, I've told myself I don't deserve to play Street Fighter. I don't deserve to be a part of the community. I don't deserve to go for UGM, which was my goal. But I stopped playing ranked for a year and a half, 2 years now, because I would just get anxiety attacks. Because I would start getting performance anxiety. I start thinking, oh god, what if I'm on someone's stream and they're like, haha, look at this bozo. How are you in master ranking or grandmaster? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I would create these scenarios to tell myself to not play because I would get anxiety. And that's kind of where I want to go is, if it makes you feel bad, you don't have to engage with it. If ranked gives you anxiety or makes you feel crappy, it's okay for you not to play ranked. Like, that doesn't mean you're a worse player for it, you know? I have friends who are incredible at the game, but they just treat ranked like it just doesn't exist. And they're doing great at their locals, placing in first place and better and such, or they're doing great at like Combo Breaker and Evo and that kind of stuff. But like, you're always going to have a situation where there's something that might not make you feel better, but that's kind of where I'm coming from is, You don't have to put yourself in a place if it doesn't make you feel good, you know? But if you also want to improve, and if you want to grit your teeth and figure out certain parts, you can too. But just like remember that you shouldn't make yourself feel bad in the process. You deserve to feel good while you're growing, not the other way around. You don't have to make yourself feel like garbage just because you want to improve. You can improve, but you don't need to antagonize yourself. You don't need to treat yourself like you're a scrub or anything. Like, honestly, I don't like using the phrase scrub, but I only think being like a scrub is a mental thing, you know? Like, if you're toxic and you're trying to hurt other people as they're trying to grow, or you're here just to make others feel bad, that's scrub. That's scrub mentality to me. That's hurting the scene. But if you're trying to improve and you don't think you're happy with where you're at and you're trying to work towards it, no matter what question you ask, as long as you're being respectful to everyone else and working on it and not trying to make others feel bad, you have just as much of a right to be in the same space as everyone else. And that's what I'm trying to tell myself to do with this. Originally with my Karin guide, I was going to go into defense as the next part, and I've been doing this for like a year, where I've been writing the script, rewriting it, rewriting it. And it comes back to the thing of, ever since I switched to hitbox, I've been kind of frustrated at myself because I can't do simple things to myself, obviously, relative to my own skill level. Like, TKing is a nightmare for me right now. I cannot do 9236 to save myself, and it only took until like maybe last month. I've had a hitbox since late November, and it only took till like last month in June where I told myself, oh god, I can finally do TKs as a part of my actual block string, because I would have to do like a little pause and then do the TK. But at that point it's like, okay, well, they kind of know what you're trying to do, so they stand up. It's like, okay, well, this TK Yozansen didn't really mean much, did it? No. But I was a combo breaker, and it was lovely. I loved being a combo breaker, but I didn't feel like I did as good as I wanted to in Street Fighter. I actually couldn't do any of my Karin routes consistently. I didn't have confirms. I made a whole guide on confirming, and I made a whole guide on tankoing, and I couldn't do that. And that's kind of the really interesting part about being a fighting game player, is I want to imagine that when you're going up in like your skills, right, or like learning new skills and applying it to your game plan, it's like it's just a slope. Like, you just keep going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and that's fine. But in the past year, I realized that learning fighting games is like a sinusoidal graph of like, actually more like it's a sine graph, right? You start at nothing, go up a little bit, go up, and then you try to learn something, and then you go down, 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 down. You're at -1. You're like, oh my god, what happened there? And then you go back up and up and up and up. You pick up a couple new skills, and then you go down, 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 because you try to apply it to rank or in tournament, and then you get beaten up pretty badly, and you're like, oh no, this is terrible. And then you start to like relax a little bit, and then you apply it to your game a little bit more, and you're a little bit more subtle about the new thing you learn, and then you go up and up and up and up. And that was the frustrating thing for me, and was I got watched in my pools, and this was coming in after EVO, where I went pretty far in EVO, and I was feeling pretty good. I went pretty far in CPT, and the funny thing was, when I went into CPT, I literally, just the night before, a friend was like, oh, are you going to CPT? And I was like, I opened up my Smash GG page, I was like, oh shoot, I'm on CPT. And I literally didn't practice for like months, maybe even a year. Literally, Rose came out, and that's all I played, but then I just like was just playing Rose casually in lobbies and that kind of stuff, but I didn't play ranked or didn't go to tournaments, didn't do diddly. And then I just went in with Karin, and I was like, man, either I'm going to go 0-2 or I'll go like 1-2. And then I almost made it out of everything. And I was like, what the hell was that crap? Like, I went like 6-2 or something, and I was like, Are you kidding me? The one year where I practiced super hard, there was just like a bunch of circumstances that came in, and I went like 2-2, and I was so upset because I practiced so hard. And it didn't help that in that year in my bracket I had Sherry as my first match, and she's an amazing Akali, so it was definitely a trial by fire for my first match. But point aside, I was really disappointed in myself because I didn't play to like my standards out after that Sherry match, because that Sherry match I felt like it was a great set and I lost, but I gave it my all and she was just a better player, and that was that. But in my next sets, I felt like I let myself down. And the one year where I just didn't care, and the night before I remembered, oh yeah, I signed up for this, didn't I? And I went like 6-2. It was like something crazy, and I was like, alright, and I didn't practice at all. I just literally did every Karin thing I knew, and I was like, yeah, well, either I win or I don't. I didn't care. What I was honestly thinking of was like what I was gonna make for lunch, and that was my day. And that's the funny thing. The same thing happened to me with Grand Blue, where I nearly got into top 8, but that was after Cat got nerfed severely, and I just was like, I just don't care. I'm just gonna go and see what I can do. And I just started 2-0ing people repeatedly. And it was funny, because I was telling myself, yeah, this is the next set where I'm gonna lose. Yeah, this is the next set where I'm gonna lose. Okay, this one for sure is the next set where I'm gonna lose. And then I didn't. And that's kind of the thing as a player, right? Is that you set yourself up for certain expectations. Sometimes you set yourself for an expectation that you're going to do amazing at a tournament, and maybe you don't reach that goal, or you think, oh, I'm going to go 0-2, and you prove yourself wrong. But like at the end of the day, like I felt that frustration again at Combo Breaker, but at the same time, I kind of felt validated, It reminded me that this is not something new that has happened for me. This happened to me multiple years, and it happens to everyone, regardless of how far they place in tournaments. Sometimes, for some people, their disappointment is, oh, I didn't get top 4. Oh, I didn't get to win in grand finals. It doesn't matter which player you are, you always have a goal, and you may not always reach it, but what's important is the day after, it's the hour after. And after that happened to me in Street Fighter V, I remember this reminded me of when I had an amazing set with Takamura at Combo Breaker before the whole pandemic hit. And Takamura and I ran a set, and I lost against something I didn't recognize with Akuma. And the first thing I did was I went and found a free station that no one was around and asked if it was okay for me to just lab there. And they're like, yeah. And then I went and I just practiced that Akuma setup for like the next hour and a half by myself. And I was just thinking to myself, well, this is fresh on my mind. And for the first time in a long time, instead of feeling like down on myself and telling myself, well, this is why you shouldn't be playing, I ended up just going into one of the corners and then just practicing just something basic to myself. Something that I thought I learned back in 2018, which was just confirming routes. Because I am not at that part anymore where I can just take my confirms for granted, and that's not a bad thing. I'm on a new controller. I lost a lot of my abilities to confirms. I lost certain inputs that I can do, but that's the new journey, right? It's not that I'm a worse player. I still have the same skill sets. I'm still the same person, but now I have a new controller, and now I need to figure out what I need to do to be a better player. And that doesn't mean that I have any less of a right to be a part of this community or to give advice to people, because now I'm back at learning to confirm with other players, and that in a way is kind of humbling, because it's kind of a thing of like, I didn't think to myself how much I've grown as a player and how much I've improved at certain things. Like certain things I've known since I was like 17. And I'm in my mid-20s right now, and I'm thinking to myself, oh goodness, this has been a long time coming, and I took this for granted back when I was a teenager. And now that I'm an adult and finally being back in a place where I didn't recognize for so long, it's kind of almost humbling, where you tell yourself, oh, so this is what it's like to forget how to do confirms, because this was just something natural to me. This was something I was considered good at. And it felt bad at Combo Breaker that for the first time I couldn't just do a stand medium punch confirm, crouch medium kick confirm. This is literally the core of my character. If I don't have those, that's hard. That makes the matchup really hard. And I had to switch to poison, and I had to do other stuff, and it didn't work out at the end. And I got washed in pools. I think I went 2-2, and I felt really bad. And I told my friends, I was like, I feel really bad right now. But at the end of the day, though, I still had a great weekend. I still grew. I went to my Guilty Gear bracket, and I almost got out of all my pools with Biken, and I wasn't sure if that was going to work or not. But that's the really fun part about being a fighting game player, is that it's always a journey that you go forward, and it has its ups and downs. You don't just go up on a slope. It's a sinusoidal wave, and it's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to feel like you let yourself down, but that doesn't mean that you're let down. It means at that very moment you didn't reach the goals you want, but that doesn't mean you can't reach the goals next week. I was in tournaments where I didn't reach my goals, and I was so frustrated because I'm like, I had this. I know I could have done it. I know I could have gotten in top 8 or won the locals, but I didn't. But there's next week, you know? There's always going to be the next day. And that's kind of the thing that I want to tell you all, is that you all will improve. You all will get better. You will all find avenues to be better players and do great things. And don't tell yourselves that you're not capable. Don't tell yourselves, I'll stop here when I'm done, if you feel like you still want to play. You have just as much of a right to grow as every other player. And I want to be that force to tell you that it's okay. My occupation, my professional occupation right now is I teach, and that's kind of what I see a lot of times when people ask me questions about fighting games, and I want to be that force just as I am in the academia field. I want to help you all improve, and I want to apologize for the past year and a half where I just stopped making guides because I told myself I don't deserve to do this, because it doesn't mean that I'm letting people down. It's more that I let myself down at the moment. But that doesn't mean that I have to continue letting myself down. And when I have this closure after going to Combo Breaker, I was thinking a lot about my friend who was my teacher, and it's actually the anniversary of him passing away 3 years ago, and he was one of the biggest forces of why I became where I was at Street Fighter. He was literally my mentor and helped me get to Master and above in that game. And it's like, I want to be that force that he was for me, for other players. And I am not so much going to say I'm sorry to everyone in the community that was looking forward to my Karin guides, but I also want to say to myself that at this moment, up until now, I've kind of let myself down in terms of like my fighting game journey in the past couple years. But that doesn't mean that I am going to continue to let myself down. And I'm going to try to be more active, and I'm going to try to be that person that I was a couple years ago, like confident and wanting to help people. I don't have confidence very often in my player the way that I have been in the past like 10 or so years of playing in fighting games, but outside of like games like Third Strike, because that's my jam. But I'm going to try to be as involved as I can, because it's not so much that I want to be relevant in the FGC, it's more so that I want to help people, and I want to be one of the people that people can come to when they feel that they're lost. And let's all try to improve together. And when Street Fighter 6 comes out, I may not be making Karin guides. I might find whatever character I like and make a guide on them, but I hope to see you all around, and I'm going to try to use that energy to help people, whether it be on my YouTube or my Twitch streams. Follow twitch.tv/SMDTT for more streams that I do weekly. But I want us all to improve and try to help ourselves. And this is the message I'm going to end it on, is we can all improve. You're not bad at the game. You're trying your best. And we're all going to get better every day. So, food for thought. And I want to thank you all for always being so supportive of me with the kind Twitter messages, the kind Discord messages, letting letting me be one of the spokespeople on Karin guides, which is so wild to me because there are so many better Karin players than me, but that doesn't mean that I don't have my own perspective to help people. So I hope that I can take the reins of teaching once more, and I hope I can start making more guides again. But this is going to be our little mini guide on fighting game mental, and I'll come back, and I hope you all look forward to more of my guides, because these are really important to me just as much as the community is. So I hope you all have a lovely day, and thank you for sitting around and listening to me, and you all have yourselves a great day.
Yeah. Well, it's the lyrical paragraphs, your tracks make me laugh. In front of the microphone, you didn't pass math. And science is the main ingredient to be the finest of the fittest. You did it, no, I ain't with it. You failed all the lessons, one of them made the top 10. Stop, look, and listen, get props with the light skin. Knowledge is the key to be the best of a black man. Wisdom understands the ways of a Dutchman. Devilish attitude that really make me rude. Friday the 13th, you're all fucking doomed. It's Jason and Michael Myers and Freddy all combined. You say what the savage is, but look who eats swine. The pig, there's only one vein in the body. I'm